It all started out my first night in Texas when I went food shopping for my E2K visit. See, I eat a lot, therefore I buy a lot. Usually too much to carry, so I always steal a shopping cart and bring it back to the hotel. Well, as I was racing across the highway with my goodies, some huge black guy comes out of left field and grabs my carriage. He's like,
I'll get that for you.
so I snatch my purse and let him push it back to the room, at which point he sees my room and will continue to do so as he harasses me throughout the remainder of this story.
That bed looks mighty comfy.
It's not, I replied, seeing where this was going.
So your husband didn't come with you?
I don't have a husband.
You're a very sexy lady. I think I like you.
I don't do guys, I like girls. So he leaves, but then I got bored. No one wanted to come out and play except the stalker, so I strolled outside and put my nose to the air. Alcohol senses were tingling. I sensed a bar nearby, so I decided to head down that long road with all the construction. God only knows who didn't honk at me along the way, but there was some reciprocating eye contact made between this tasty guy and a nice little red rice burner stopped at the light. I even spotted him pulling his glasses down to get a better look at me, so naturally I smiled and then kept going. Only 2 minutes later, he appears alongside of me, asking if I need a ride. Hot guy? Red sports car? Take me to the nearest bar. Turns out my instincts were spot on. I was actually already headed in the right direction, for the bar, or both bars in this case, Cape Buffalo and Carson's, were only a quick minute away. I met this one talkative lady in the bathroom who later brought me back to her table to meet her boyfriend, who then proceeded to buy me drinks, namely a woohoo, which is like a house mixed drink Shirley Temple thing, and then a Jester's Punch, which I don't even remember what the hell's in that. After that, they bounced. I eventually made my way back to the bar, where I ultimately met the guy who would be the end of the night. A tall, 32-year-old suit, skinny, but looked rich. So after his endless purchasing of shots for me, I have no clue how many, B-52s, brain hemorrhages, and I don't remember, and another I don't remember, he kind of started getting a little close. So out came a pic of the old lady and me kissing. And he's like, "That's cool." Then he really started getting close. So I offered to talk with him some more, but away from the bar where it wasn't so loud. I got to the lounge first and was standing there by myself, waiting for him, when out of nowhere, he pops up right behind me, looking as though he was about to kiss me. I quickly pulled away and was like, "I can't." Then he asked if I had any nicer clothes, so that he could take me to a fancier place, somewhere that would require heels. He was obviously trying to get me to come home with him. Not that I wouldn't have if I was single. He was really nice and I was really, really drunk. So instead, I told him that there was something I had to tell him. He immediately started guessing until he eventually just said it. "You're not a guy, are you?" "Why, do I look like a guy? Do I come off as a guy?" "In no way whatsoever," he replied. Then I finally told him I used to be a guy. He asked if I still had my unit. I said not really, hormones took care of that. And that's when he sticks his hand right between my freaking legs. He eventually just got up, hugged me, and then announced that he could no longer hang out with me. He seemed more sad than anything. As soon as he left, I started tearing up, so I left the bar. And on my way home, I began bawling my eyes out. And when I got back to my room, guess who was waiting there for me? Stalker Central. Bettina ended up calling the cops from New Jersey and had them come to my hotel. I was hiding in the bathroom with a butter knife, pissed drunk and crying when they finally arrived. Then the next day I got bored again, so I headed back to Carson's for round two. Still shaken up from the first night, I chose to sit in the back alone until the alcohol began replacing my blood again, and that's when this big guy comes over and tells me to smile. I told him that last night was rough, so he did the massage chop thing to my shoulders to relax me as we proceeded to talk. Then he tells me that I have a deep voice. Well, what do you expect after a long night of secondhand smoking, drinking, crying, and screaming over the music? Now I just wanted him to go away, but since he was my only company and I was feeling secluded, I kind of decided to humor him. Then he asks if I'm natural. Natural? You mean my tits?
No. Are you natural?
I think I knew where he was getting at, but was finding it too amusing to continue toying with him. Are you asking if I have breast implants?
No. Were you born this way?
Do you mean am I a guy? Do I look like a guy?
No. So then you're natural.
What do you think? I asked as I flashed him my fake, but expensive and very convincing breast forms. God damn, she's the nerve of some people's kids. Unfortunately, though, half the bar also saw this and started cheering at me. It was now time to dance. I hit the floor pretty hard, busted moves until my headband flew off. I then watched it slide across the floor and land at some dude's foot. But rather return it, he instead puts it on his head, smiles, and then walks away. I busted out laughing. I ended up dancing really, and I mean really hard. People were actually cheering me on. However, I guess the previous night's drinks were still in my system because I ended up having to leave rather abruptly. I got back to my room okay, but I think someone installed a roller coaster under my mattress because that room was spinning. The night ultimately ended up in the garbage can, and that's pretty much all I can recall of my trip until I made it to E2K. Man, when my therapist caught wind of what I had done, oh my god, she called me so many names. She yelled at me so goddamn bad, it was far scarier than any of the times my parents ever did so. She even called me, and I quote, a cock-teasing little cunt with no morals, no ethics, and no values, and told me that I was going to end up dead. She reminded me that I still had the mind of a 13-year-old, due to where I was in my hormone regime. But what could I say? I've always hated authority, and now here I was with this brand new body to explore the world with. A large part of me didn't want to wait any longer to experience all the things I would have otherwise gone through had I grown up a normal female from the start. On another note, I happened to catch while editing that entry, not included, that I had recently interviewed for a job in Connecticut. What was going on was BAE, the company I was working for, was consolidating their plants and moving them to the wonderful Nutmeg State. And in knowing that now, I also know that Bettina and I had since moved to upstate New Jersey with my dad, as my parents' divorce had finally become official. There were still a few months before any decisions would have to be made concerning the move, but Bettina and I decided to make a trip up to Connecticut anyway, just to see what it looked like. We drove something like 500 miles and met with a few of the farm girls along the way as we looked for possible places to live, and at first, we hated the state. It seemed as though there was nothing but trees, and then more trees, and then the same roads, which led to even more trees. And in the areas we didn't fear getting mugged, the locals could have easily inferred that we were the muggers. It was all either ghettos or million-dollar neighborhoods. I was also working at Domino's at this point, which I must say was so freaking cool. Nothing beats delivering pizzas as a girl in a hot-ass two-seater little red convertible. The tips were crazy. I made something like $4,000 in 2 months. They didn't even care that Bettina was always with me, blaring my car speakers as we freely drove around town collecting money. And here's where I might add that Bettina was no angel either. God help the non-tippers. The two of us used to save all the stiffers' addresses, and then come the end of the week, we'd go to the local 7-Eleven and buy about 3 cartons of eggs. And for those that didn't tip, got their goddamn houses covered in yolk. I have no regrets in doing so. I was using my gas at any given hour of the night while working for a paycheck that couldn't even buy a nice meal for two at a decent restaurant. Everyone knows that pizza delivery drivers work off tips, so if you're the type of cheapskate who stiffs your driver, just be sure to tell them how you like your eggs. And Bettina would always help, too. Man, it was so fun being young and reckless. Lastly in the string of events, one fine day while I was at the DMV changing my address from the move to my dad's, some asshole clocked me, meaning they spotted me as trans, when I was leaving the bathroom. This crazy-looking guy makes his way over to me and starts talking, at which point he let it be known that I had an Adam's apple. I already saved up to have it removed, along with a few other possible surgeries. I just hadn't set a due date due to the uncertainty of where my job was headed. However, after this occurrence, I was now scheduled for my next set of procedures on 4/12/04. 4 Jan, February, March, April. Oh yeah. Ow. Oh, that one didn't make it. My fake yet convincing breast forms for YouTube.